the last sentence I read, I'll read again. You suffer pain because the body does, and in this pain are you made one with it. Thus is your true identity preserved. Now, the true is put in quotes, which lets you know that's really not true. Our true identity is as spirit, ourself, capital S, or Christ. Thus is your true identity preserved, and the strange, haunting thought that you might be something beyond this little pile of dust, silenced and stilled. So our true identity, in quotes, as an ego, is kept preserved and is kept safe. And the alien thought that we could be something more or beyond this little pile of dust, beyond the body, is silenced and stilled. That's the purpose of the body. Many places in the Course, Jesus uses the phrase from the Psalms to refer to the Holy Spirit, the still small voice. That's the voice that is silenced and is stilled. That's the voice that the body, the ego's raucous shrieks, drowns out. Yeah.
I heard something some years back, actually in the S training, that when you were talking about thinking, it reminded me, it went, that which you think is that which is thinking you. And I have a feeling that pertained to the ego at the time.
Yeah, and the ego never wants us to know who is doing the thinking. There's a question earlier in the text where Jesus asks, who is the you who are living in this world? And while he doesn't give the answer right then, though of course is the answer really, the you is not the you see in your bedroom mirror every morning. All right? The you that's living in this world is not living in this world. And that's the mind. Right? In an important section on specialness in the text, Jesus explains how there's no way you could hear the voice of the Holy Spirit when it's drowned out by the voice of specialness, the voice of individuality, the voice of separation. That's the purpose of the body. And of course, the ingenuity of the ego is that it pulls us off without our knowing it. Because our bodies seem so real, our needs, our pleasures, our pains seem so real, that it is almost impossible to understand that all of this is made up. You know, that's why there's that important statement in Lesson 190. If there is God, there is no pain. If there is pain, there is no God. And everyone knows when we are in pain, physical or psychological, God is the furthest thing from our mind, unless we invoke a magical deity to come down and fix the pain. Right, we'll get to a little bit later. The whole value of being in pain is that it roots us in the body. The whole value of feeling good after a good exercise or a nice meal, but I'm hungry. The whole value of that is it makes my body feel good, which means in no way do I believe I'm not a body. And again, first it's difficult to understand it intellectually, and then far, far more difficult to make it part of your experience. But to really understand that Jesus is not talking to you as a body. In this Course, the you that he continually addresses us as is not you, the you that you see every morning in your mirror, is not the you that you dress, that you feed, that you recreate with, that you relax with. It's not the you that thinks about what these words say. It's not the you whose eyes read the words that your brain thinks about. It's not the body at all. He's talking to the mind, specifically to the decision-making part of your mind that had made the incorrect choice for the ego as a teacher, and now has to undo that incorrect choice by choosing the Holy Spirit or Jesus as your teacher. That's the you he's addressing. Right? It's almost impossible, however, not to go through a period of time, if not many, many, many years, in which you still feel Jesus is talking to the you think you are. The you that's a body, that's a personality, that has a past, that has a present that's reading this Course, and that has a future that you hope will be better than your past was. It's very hard to understand that that is not whom he's addressing at all. This is a Course in helping you awaken from the dream, not to live more happily within the dream. And again, while these are words that I said that everybody would certainly agree with, the practice and the application of them are something much, much different. because our immediate response is that he's talking to me. He wants me to be more happy. He wants me to forgive. He wants me to be less guilty. He wants me to be less fearful. He wants me to be more peaceful. But do you realize how absolutely insane Jesus would be if that's what he wanted for you? He would want your illusory self, a figure in a dream, to be happy. Well, how can an illusory self be happy or unhappy? When Jesus appeared in the world 2,100 years ago, he appeared in a body. People saw him as a body. Whatever stories people made up about that, there was certainly an experience of a person. The difference between him and everybody else was that he knew he was not a body. He knew he wasn't here because he knew there was no here to come into, any more than there was a here to leave. His here was the love in his mind that he asks all of us now to share with him. And remember, when he talks about the body, and he pokes fun at the body, as we've already seen in that one passage specifically, he is not just talking about the physical body, he's talking about your personality as well, your psychological body. He's talking about the individual self you think you are, that you associate with the person whose name you bear. The person that was born to the people you call your parents, that grew up in a certain environment, in a certain country, as part of a certain race, a certain region, a certain religion, a certain culture, a certain gender. A person that relates to other bodies that share in the same delusional system you share it. We all share the same ego thought system. That's what got us here. We all share the same correction for that insanity, the right-minded presence of the Holy Spirit. And above all, we share the same power within our minds to choose between the two. And as you live that more and more and become more aware of that, even as you're a body, living with other bodies and interacting with other bodies, you become more aware that despite all the differences that obviously exist on the material and psychological level that distinguish one body, one person from another, despite all these, we are all the same, right? Which is not the same as the experience of absolute oneness, which we're not capable of experiencing here. But the reflection of that oneness is understanding we are all one in insanity, we are all one in sanity, and we are all one in choosing one or the other, and having the power to choose one or the other. That's what awakens us from this dream. So we're not asked to deny the body or any of our experiences in the body, physically or psychologically. We are really asked to shift the purpose that the body serves. That's what we're asked to do. So that's what that line means that I quoted earlier, that the Holy Spirit does not take away our special relationships, but he transforms them. He does not ask us to sacrifice or give up anything of the body. Anything. He's simply asking to shift the purpose for the body. All that we do is we see the body now as a means instead of an end. We see the body as a classroom. We see the body as a vehicle that gets us from where we are, which is the nightmare world of hate and guilt and pain and death, to get us from there to drive through the ego thought system, but with a different driver, right? That will eventually get us to the real world, at which point then we don't need the body anymore. Not that we necessarily die, but we don't need the body as a classroom. You know, our bodies may still live. We still go through the same 7 ages of man, or from birth to death in the 7 stages in between. But we do it differently. We don't do complaining and whining. And even though our bodies may fall apart as we get older, we'll say, what does that have to do with me? The experience of Jesus' loving and peaceful presence in my mind is totally unaffected by the decrepitude of my body. So again, it's not that my body doesn't change, because in this world, bodies change. But the love in my mind doesn't change. Just as when I get fearful, the hate and the guilt in my mind, they don't change. What changes is the amount of time, quote unquote, because in the mind you don't really have time, the amount of time I spend with the ego or the Holy Spirit. That changes. So this course is all about not changing the dream. It's changing the mind of the dreamer.